There's no denying the BMW M5 and the Mercedes E63 are absolute legends. Twin-turbo V8s, stunning looks, and brilliant interiors are a recipe for success. But let's find out which one is better. The E63 has always used a slightly different formula than the BMW M5. It's always been about luxury and massive amounts of power, not as much handling. That meant if you floored it at low speeds, because it was rear-wheel drive, you would light up the tires in a smoky burnout. Part of the reason why Jeremy Clarkson loved the car so much. Now, the new E63 AMG S is only available in all-wheel drive, which means that even in first gear at low speeds, you floor it and you're thrusted back into your seat with no wheel spin. And that means no drama. But the acceleration is so brutal, you can forgive Mercedes for the lack of traction. We've got a 5.5 liter bi-turbo V8 producing 577 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. Motor Trend actually did a head-to-head a couple years ago between the E63 and the M5, and they dynoed both cars. Adjusting for a 20% drivetrain loss, the E63 actually produced 676 crank horsepower on the dyno, which means it is severely underrated. And while I don't know if it feels quite like 680 horsepower, certainly, it thrusts you back into your seat extremely hard for a relatively heavy car. This is 4,500 pounds, the M5 is 4,400. 0 to 60 happens in 3.5 seconds, which is ridiculous when you think about it. That is supercar territory in a four-door comfortable luxury car. Let's talk about luxury. You've got massaging seats, heated and cooled seats. You've got active side bolsters that adjust and hug you in place as you go around turns. Something that was actually offered on the E60 M5, but is not available on the new F10. From an interior quality standpoint, you can't go wrong either way. Both of them feel about the same level of elegance and build quality. They've just got different styling. The Mercedes is a little bit more simple. Everything is more squared out, but I don't like one more than the other, to be honest. The seats in the Mercedes are quite comfortable. Those side bolsters around the turns are awesome. Good thing is, if you're choosing between the M5 and the E63, you can't really go wrong either way. But I'm gonna tell you some of the pluses and minuses of each, and maybe some things are more of a priority to you than others, which would make you choose one versus the other. So, the E63, it sounds a lot better than the M5. Stock exhausts on both of them, the E63 sounds better. The M5 we're actually testing has a muffler delete, and the E63 still sounds better. It's got a bigger V8. AMG has spent tons of money on research and development in their exhaust department, and they are always known for an incredible sounding, burbling exhaust note. BMW, the V10 sounded incredible. It was a little quiet, but with some aftermarket exhaust options, brilliant. The F10 with the turbos, not so much. They actually have to pipe fake exhaust noise into the cabin in order to make up for the fact that it is so quiet. Part of the reason for that is consumers are asking for bigger cars that are more isolated from the road. And as you add more sound deadening, unfortunately, that gets rid of the engine note. Mercedes has done a fantastic job of both eliminating unnecessary rattles, wind noises, but still having that awesome V8 intrude into the cabin. From a handling standpoint, Mercedes has really upped the game. It does feel like it is on a competitive level in terms of steering response, turn in terms of body roll. The only thing that the Mercedes does suffer from is a worse transmission than the BMW. Now, this is a 7-speed automatic that shifts quickly, a lot quicker than previous generation Mercedes. That was one of their absolute weak points, like in the older C63 that we tested. But now they've improved a little bit. But BMW has a 7-speed double clutch transmission, which is far and away better. Instantaneous shift response is every bit as quick as you would want it to be. Oh, this car just sounds so good. On upshifts, it gives you a little blat of the exhaust, and oh my God, downshifts are brilliant. Oh. In both cars, of course, you've got adaptive suspension and multiple driving modes. I've been driving it in manual, and at the firmest suspension setting, let's put it in full comfort mode. This is a car that you can very much daily drive, cruise around. It's not intimidating at all unless you're giving it full throttle. And even still, with the all-wheel drive layout, it makes it much more relaxing, much more comfortable to unleash 577 horsepower. But now in comfort mode, the steering is lighter, the suspension soaks up bumps better. This is the car that you would get for the perfect everyday car that's also incredibly fun. It's all-wheel drive, so you can drive it in crappy, rainy weather or in the snow. It's great as a commuter to go to work, but then it's also fun on the weekends, whether you're doing roll racing or you're carving up back roads. At this point in time, and it may change, I've driven the E63 slightly more than the M5 today, and I'm leaning towards the Mercedes. I love the way it sounds. They've improved the handling immensely, as with the transmission. The interiors are every bit as good as one another, and I actually prefer the exterior appearance of the E63. So we're gonna go ahead and hop in the BMW and see what that's all about. Right off the bat in the M5, you can feel the steering is a little bit heavier, and just the driving position feels a little bit more driver focused, like you're positioned more in a sports car than you are in a luxury sedan. The wheel feels perfect in your hand, and the most instant upshifts and downshifts you could imagine from this double clutch transmission. You've also got a brilliant heads-up display. It's colored, shows your speed, what gear you're in, the current speed limit, as well as an awesome tachometer that's in the shape of a semicircle. Very cool and very useful. The colors are so bright that you can actually see it in broad daylight, which is pretty rare for heads-up displays. This is, of course, a rear-wheel drive car, so the driving dynamics are a bit different than the E63. You can, of course, step the rear end out a lot more easily, but traction off the line is still really, really good. BMW has always done a great job of putting the power to the ground. When this car was dynoed, it made a lot less horsepower than the E63 did. It only weighs about 100 pounds less than the E63, so for it to put down similar times, 11.7 in the quarter mile, 3.7 to 3.8 seconds 0 to 60, is an impressive feat. The M5 feels like more of a driver's car. This is the car you take out on the weekends and you carve in the back roads. Of course, you can also take it to the golf course and lug people around, but it does feel like it's a performance car first, luxury second. Now, the E63 doesn't feel like you're compromising between a sports car and a luxury car. It doesn't feel like you're sacrificing in either way. It kind of does both in harmony, but you definitely don't get as raw of a driving experience as you do in the BMW. Oh. Launch control in this car is a hell of a lot of fun. Little wheel spin off the line, but then from there it grips and absolutely flies. Visibility is great in the M5. It's a little bit worse than the Mercedes. Very, very spacious in here, plenty of headroom. You could drive this if you're a much larger or taller individual. Same with the Mercedes as well. Very, very comfortable when you put the suspension into comfort mode. And then when you put it into Sport Plus, you've got much less body roll and the car has more control on the road. Let's flick it down a couple gears and step on the gas. It got a little bit of wheel spin there in first gear, something the Mercedes doesn't have. Makes it a little bit more exciting, but I'd bet that from 20 miles per hour, if you put the Mercedes head-to-head against the BMW, from 20 to 45, the BMW would be struggling for traction. And in that period, the Mercedes would put a car length or so on it. I'm looking actually at the E63 in my rearview mirror. Man, that is a good looking car. I love the daytime running lights on that. The F10 has the signature angel eyes, although in the newer generation cars, they're not completely round. They've actually got squared off tops and bottoms of the lights. So here's the deal. You can't go wrong. If you want a slightly, I mean just the slightest bit more driver-focused car, you pick the F10 M5. If you want a car that sounds better, that's more usable, you can use it in the winter, gets better traction off the line, I actually think it looks better, pick the E63. I'm gonna have to pick a car to win this test, and as much as I want to say the Mercedes, I'm gonna have to go with the F10 BMW M5. It's a better driver's car. You can buy an aftermarket exhaust, fix the exhaust issue, the transmission's better, the steering feels a bit better, and for that reason, this is still the king of super sports sedans. Well, I hope you found this review informative. Like always, please browse our channel and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you next video.